Hello, welcome to another episode of Stamp Nomad Updates. This is Brandon, I am Brandon. I'll be your host, and we're going to dive into a few impactful and interesting stories affecting the nomad community, expats, travelers, etc. around the world. Starting with the EU Entry-Exit Visa, or rather the EU Entry-Exit Program. What is it? How does it affect you? Then we'll talk about the airport shutdown in El Dorado, Colombia. We'll go up north a bit to Mexico, discuss the recent doubling of the long-term residency visa costs. Then we'll head over to Europe, talk about Luxembourg. They've actually updated their list of occupations with a shortage, which means it's a bit easier for travelers, nomads, etc., who are seeking to live there long term to maybe get an occupation or get a job there and live. And then we'll kind of dive into Estonia's Digital Nomad Visa program. What is it, and is it worth getting? All right, let's start. I've been hearing a lot about the EU entry-exit visa or entry-exit system, and apparently it's a really big deal. So they've fully transitioned to the entry-exit system, otherwise known as EES, which is a digital network that replaces traditional manual stamps. So stamp nomad, God, we're about to be dinosaurs. You will no longer get a stamp. It's more so biometric scanning. So they're going to scan your face and your fingerprints, etc., etc. And it really impacts people who are not from the EU or have residency / long-term stay in the EU. So, if you're on the Schengen visa, you're definitely gonna have to get your face scanned and your prints taken. The thing about that, though, is that I find interesting as well. I think there's maybe one or two places, I think Ireland and somewhere else, they're still opting for the manual stamp. However, if you deny or you say, hey, no, I don't want my face scanned, I don't want you to have my fingerprints, you won't be allowed in the EU. So think about that. I mean, we're moving into a digital world / we're already there. So it's not really surprising, but it is a big change. Moving on to Mexico. So this year, starting on January 1st, Mexico doubled the cost for the long-term residency visa. It used to be roughly about $620, and now we're looking at $1,390. And that's actually before you calculate in the consulate application fee, income thresholds, etc., etc. Now, there have been a lot of protests in Mexico, and I can understand why in areas that are saturated by digital nomads, specifically because of rent hikes. So I think this is Mexico's answer to that, to say, hey, okay, if you're coming here, we want to make sure that you're spending a lot of money here, etc., etc. And also, kind of give the government a bit more money. I don't know if it's a viable thing per se for nomads, or if it's something that really is bothering people. What do you think? Has it really affected you? Nonetheless, if you're considering moving to Mexico long term, or taking on the long term or the residency visa, consider that it's no longer $620. On to the next story. Luxembourg. I've never been to Luxembourg. One day I'll have the pleasure of going. They've recently updated their list of 20 shortage occupations, which I guess it used to be 22, so I guess maybe that's a good thing that it's reduced. What that covers are, roles across finance, IT, healthcare, construction, research and development, etc., etc. The main focus of it is to attract non-EU workers who fit into that criteria and can help the country. So if you check out the list, which you can go to stampnomad.com, check out this story. Actually, the link will be below. But if you're interested, you might actually qualify for kind of a fast track process. So I would highly recommend checking it out. On to the next story. Estonia's Digital Nomad Visa. I've heard a few people speak about it. I haven't really met anyone that has acquired it as of yet, but I think it's an interesting one to, dive into a bit more. What you get is up to 1 year within Estonia, and it actually sits outside of their typical immigration quota. So there's no caps to worry about. As many people that want to apply can. Now, the income bar is a little bit different than in many other countries that offer the nomad visa. This is about £4,500 a month, before taxes. And you have to prove it for over a 6-month period. So it's not like 3 months in Thailand, but it's over a 6-month period. So it needs to be sustainable. Also, family members can be a part of the digital nomad visa in Estonia. So, you can have dependents on your visa. The only, I'd say, downside, other than the cold when it's cold, is that there's no extension to it. So you're gonna have to reapply every time. So every year that it's, after 1 year, you have to leave, come back, reapply, and then start the process over again. So that's something to take into account. On to the next, or really interesting one. I saw this about El Dorado, and it reminds me of the movie, or the cartoon movie. And so I checked it out. I thought it was a pretty interesting story. So it's yet another taxi protest, but this one kind of went a little bit far. For 2 days in April, looks like on the 8th and 9th, taxi drivers kind of blockaded the airport, and they were protesting over, obviously things like ride hailing services like Uber, etc., and many other things, pay, etc. The good news is that after 2 days, the airport was reopened. There were some negotiations, and it looks like on April 10th, everything was opened back up. But just in case you're in El Dorado and you were trying to get to the airport, or you were in that area, or maybe you heard about it and you're in Colombia, that's the reason why the taxi drivers were upset. Yeah. And those are our updates for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Check out stampnomad.com. Get all of your visa, travel updates, delays, disruptions, etc. We keep our news scanners going 24/7. We try to pick up the most impactful news, all geared and catered towards you, the traveler, the nomad, the explorer in life. I love you. Have a great day. Namaste.